Thank you for coming this morning. I, on behalf of Carol Herring and Senator Wes Clymer, have filed a petition in the Supreme Court for a writ of injunction that was filed Friday afternoon. And within 2 hours, the Supreme Court issued a scheduling order, expedited scheduling order, unprecedented in my experience, that the state respond by a week from today, and that we reply to that within 2 days. So a week from Wednesday, this matter will be fully briefed. Now, y'all have all received a copy of the petition. I'm not going to go into the minutia on it, but it simply says that the legislature voted itself a raise in violation of the South Carolina Constitution. We believe case law is on our side. We believe that there are a number of other precedents that will support our position. And it says, and those precedents say this, and the Constitution says this legislature is free to vote a pay increase, but they can't vote a pay increase for themselves. They could vote a pay increase that would go into effect in January of 27, but not now. So I'm going to let, if y'all want to ask questions about the legal piece, I'll be happy to answer those. But after that, Wes and Carol will be available to answer the motivation piece of all that, which y'all don't give a crap about the law. So I'm sure that's going to be more. Y'all recording that, right? Okay. Any questions about the legal piece?
So, the Constitution says per diem. How are you defining per diem?
The same way our courts have defined per diem in the 1800s, in the 1900s, and that is per diem is whatever they get. Remember now, there was when this process first started in the 1800s, there was no salary, there was no in district expenses. It was all per diem. Now, what's happened since then is they get a salary, and they get a in-district expense, which they pay taxes on. That's income to them. That is not reimbursable expenses. A per diem is to reimburse your expenses in traveling to Columbia, staying in Columbia, buying food, getting a hotel room, etc. So this is income. They've increased their income.
So, as a former legislator and as a current legislator, I'm just wondering, how do you guys currently claim indigent expenses? Because if people keep saying, it's essentially, expensible, you guys say that it's income. As far as
I'm
getting,
sorry, you have to speak up just a little louder.
so do you need to submit receipts? Like, how does that work?
No, I mean,
You would answer.
yeah, this is
Okay, so is it the
okay, let's change place.
So the current in-district expense at $1,000 a month arrives in legislators' bank accounts via direct deposit every month. There are no receipts required to submit for reimbursement. It's just a $1,000 deposit into the account. Legislators are free to expend those funds however they deem appropriate, and the Internal Revenue Service taxes it as income. So this is income, and the in-district expense as appropriated in the budget is a thinly veiled increase in legislators' income. It is a pay increase that takes effect in real time. And so the constitutional principle implicated by that, as Senator Harpootlian said a minute ago, is that regardless of how you feel about a legislative pay raise, this is the wrong way to do it. It violates the Madisonian principle that the legislature cannot take the people's money and appropriate it to themselves in real time. If there is to be a pay raise, the pay raise can only take effect after the people, by way of election, have had an opportunity to decide who gets that pay raise and who does not. And this constitutional principle is so important to the quality of good government and the way legislators think about their jobs that we had no recourse but to bring this suit in order to stop it in its tracks before it can go an inch further.
Can you just clarify, why is the respondent the treasurer?
Because the treasurer is responsible for dispersing the checks. Ms. Harry?
Good afternoon. I'm Carol Herring. I am a retired educator from a couple of different South Carolina schools. I have been a friend of Wes Clymer's for several years, a appreciated the service that he's given to our state and to my region. When he asked me about this, I immediately wanted to be a part of it. For the reasons that he has expressed, I am concerned that we are sending people to Columbia to serve in the General Assembly in two parts, that somehow this is being seen as more of a job rather than a part-time service to our state. And on the second part of that, several of the issues that many of us cared so much about didn't even get considered. This was pushed aside, and at the last minute, we ended up with a pay raise for the General Assembly, and I find that to be counterproductive in terms of being a good servant for our state.
Senator, can you talk a little bit, you explain exactly how this money gets into bank accounts, but can you talk a little bit about just sort of the money that you probably spend in general for I mean, it is a part-time job, but it is a full-time job essentially here. We've heard from other senators about not only just how expensive things have gotten, but people's districts are so large, especially in the Senate, they're spending a lot of money on office supply, on staff, on travel. Can you just talk a little bit about?
Sure. Let me say this at the outset. Everyone who's in the General Assembly now knew what the salary was when they chose to run. This is not a surprise. And so the bait and switch on the taxpayer after the elections have happened for legislators to appropriate themselves more of the taxpayers' money in real time runs afoul of basic constitutional norms. Now, to your question around the expense of serving, the whether legislative pay is at the appropriate level or not, those are the types of questions that ought to be answered through the regular legislative process with a bill that moves through committee, so on and so forth. Not a proviso that snuck into the budget at the last second. One chamber of the General Assembly didn't even vote on it in an up or down fashion. And so our point with the lawsuit is that irrespective of your view on a pay raise, whether one is merited or whether it's not, this is the wrong way to do it. And we are standing here and have filed this suit in order to protect or to defend the constitutional safeguards, again, against the General Assembly appropriating itself taxpayer money in real time.
Let me, a procedural matter I failed to mention. I received a call this morning from Ken Moffitt. Okay. It's procedural. Y'all really want to get this? Okay. I received a call this morning from Ken Moffitt with the Senate, and he asked permission for the House and the Senate to intervene. So they, in addition to the treasurer, they're going to intervene on behalf of the House and the Senate. I relayed that to, I had a call from Representative Joe White this morning, who voted against, I think the House actually voted against this pay increase. And he and others are going to challenge, I'm told by him, leadership's decision to intervene, because they'll be spending, in his words, spending more of our money to give a pay increase to House members who voted against it. But you may want to give Joe White a call.
Senator Clymer, on that note, House members were sent a form if they wanted to opt out of the pay increase. Were senators given that option as well? And have you, or do you know of any other senators who have told the clerk you just want to opt out of it?
Yeah, the clerk of the Senate gave an opportunity for senators to reject the pay increase if they wish. I have informed the clerk that I don't wish to receive the pay increase.
Did they give you a deadline to make that decision?
I don't recall seeing a deadline, but I just responded. He sent an email, I responded to the email.
And that has no impact on the constitutionality of the revision.
You're doing this pro bono still, correct?
Sort
of. So why'd you get involved?
To hit a switch, this may take a minute. Wes Clymer and I worked together in the Senate for 6 years. He and I share a common interest in protecting the state fisc to ensure, I mean, we both opposed most earmarks. We were very vigorous in attempting to make sure that earmarks didn't go to fictional nonprofits. And this, to me, seemed to be another step in the wrong direction. Now, having said that, I'm a lawyer, and when Wes called me and talked about it, I said, well, let me go see if there's a valid legal objection. I'm a lawyer. I believe in the rule of law. I know that's an antiquated attitude these days, but I believe in the rule of law. I looked at it, and it was clear to me, it may not be so clear to the Supreme Court, but clear to me that the conduct of the General Assembly was unconstitutional.
And just to clarify on the timeline, you've asked the Supreme Court to quickly intervene. The respond has been given, what, by Monday?
A week, well, yes. And I think that this is extraordinary. I've never seen anything like this. We filed this petition on Friday afternoon, and normally you would serve it, which you do by certified mail, and once they get it, they have a chance to respond, which sometimes could take a week or so. Within an hour and a half of us filing it, Brenda Shealy from the Supreme Court sent an email to the Attorney General saying the court has decided that whatever responses are filed, whatever responses are filed will have to be filed by Monday, June 16th. And petitioner, us, we have until the following Wednesday, the 18th. And then everything's briefed. And if they wanted to have oral argument, they could have it on the 19th. But it's clear they want to resolve this before the new fiscal year on July 1.
And then just a biographical question for Ms. Herring. I know you mentioned that you're just getting involved as a private citizen. Are you involved in any groups? I was just looking you up earlier and saw that you were with the Federation of Republican Women. Is that still accurate?
That is accurate. I am an officer with the state Republican Women and also with the local York County Republican Women.
And you just joined this suit as a private citizen?
I am doing it as a private citizen. I just feel like someone had to stand up and say, the people of South Carolina need to have a voice in this, and Wes offered me the opportunity. So I think if more people were aware, especially that they voted for themselves to have the pay raise rather than what the Constitution says that needs to be for the next General Assembly seated in January 27, that makes a big difference to the people of South Carolina.
Is it necessary to have a non-lawmaker on the lawsuit?
No. No. I mean, he's got a right to sue, she's got a right to sue. There's no legal prohibition against Wes Clymer suing the treasurer.
You mentioned that the House and the Senate are likely to get involved. Was there any consideration about suing someone beyond the treasurer?
Well, I mean, no, because this was for injunctive relief, stop somebody from doing something. I mean, for the sake of argument, if we didn't file it as quickly as we did and it went past July 1, we'd have to try to claw back money from legislators if we won. We want to avoid all that. The only way to do that is to enjoin the check writer. And so that's why we sued the treasurer. And of course, when you do that, you send a notice to the AG's office because they seek to defend. Of course, as I said, the House and the Senate want to intervene, and the more the merrier. You know, if there's something we've overlooked or something they think is relevant to this issue, I mean, look, is it bad policy? You know, is it a bad law? I think this makes for strange bedfellows, but whether it's unconstitutional or not, I mean, I believe it is, but it's the law. It's subject to interpretation by the Supreme Court, and I welcome it. Anything else?
Aside from you, have you heard of any other senators who have also declined?
Many others have. I don't want to, so to your question, several other senators have declined. I know many members of the House have, but I don't want to speculate or put words in anyone's mouth. I'd refer you to them for comment.
Okay.
Is your intention to decline it for the rest of this current term that you're in?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.